Hello, my dear friends. I'm Stanislav Shamayev, a licensed business immigration and corporate attorney here in Miami. Today we're going to be talking by your request about a very popular immigrant visa that is called EB-3. And at the end of this video, you'll be able to know how to get a free analysis of your case by myself. Let's do it. Visa EB-3 is for skilled and unskilled employees. That means that pretty much everybody can qualify for this visa, regardless of what kind of education you have. As long as you have a high school diploma, you are able to qualify as an unskilled employee. And also, if you have a bachelor's or higher, then you can be a skilled employee. Let's first talk about the negative side of this visa. There is one big minus, and that is the time frame that takes the immigration process to process this visa and get you the actual stamp and the passport. That may take up to 2.5 years. Why is that? We're going to be discussing that in more details a little bit later. Then there are requirements for employer and employee, and we'll be discussing these two things also. Further, there is a limit on these visas per year. However, since COVID, since 2019-2020, those limits have never been filled out, so there is no wait time for this visa once it's approved. So let's first talk about the requirements for the employer. But before we begin, please follow me on my Instagram and my TikTok, because I post a lot of exclusive and unique content on those social media platforms that are not here on YouTube. If you're interested in business immigration, work immigration, or talent visas, please sign up for those social media platforms and you won't miss the fresh updates. So the employer has two requirements to satisfy. Number one, the business need. The employer, the company in the United States, has to be able to prove that the vacancy that it has in the company has a business necessity. And that's a very important term. Remember it, business necessity. We have to be able to prove that without this position, the company cannot be as successful as it could be. By way of example, let's take a trucking company. And for the trucking company to be viable, to be able to scale, that needs to have a dispatcher, a person who's going to direct the loads and the truckers along the business of the company. This is a very good example because we are able to show that without a dispatcher, the company will not be able to be as successful as it could be. And requirement number two is the financial ability of the company to pay. And this is the most important requirement for the employer. What it means? That means that the tax declaration should be in net profit. After all the income and all the expenses, the company should have this net profit, and it cannot be less than $50,000 realistically. If the company that wants to sponsor you, and a sponsor is a more legal term for EB-3 visa, you need to make sure that company is profitable with not less than $50,000 plus a year. Also, this requirement can be satisfied by the assets of the company. So let's say the company is not profitable, however, there are trucks, there are vehicles, equipment, furniture, maybe some property, let's say an office. So we can use those assets, evidence that the company is able to pay the salary to the employee. Now, let's talk more about the requirements for the employee. Those requirements called minimum requirements that needs to be fulfilled, and they are the education, the experience, and additional certification or skills. So those three are the most important. There are some other ones, let's say like language could be one of the requirements, and this is probably a topic for a separate discussion. So we need to say what's the minimum requirement for the education. Let's say it's a high school diploma. Let's say it's a clerical work. It's possible. Then the experience, how many years the employer requires the employee to have an experience for. Further, the additional certification. Let's say the employer requires a certification in Microsoft Word or in Excel. So we can put that in our petition to the Department of Labor. So the process of getting EB-3 visa has 4 distinct stages. Stage number 1, it's called prevailing wage, and it's one of the most important stages because the information that the employer puts in the prevailing wage petition is going to be used at the last stage, number 4, when we file the paperwork with the immigration services. So the attorney who's leading the case has to be very careful with the phrasing, with the requirements, with everything that needs to be put on that piece of paper. So once everything is filled out, we put the minimal requirements in the paper, we put all the codes that we find in the catalogs, and we send it to the Department of Labor in the federal level. And that process takes about 6 to 7 months. Once we get this paperwork, what we're looking at is the amount of money that Department of Labor qualified the position for. In other words, how much money this employer will have to pay to this position if the American employee worked for this company. And then we go to stage number 2, and that's called recruiting. So at this stage, the employer has to test the American labor market to see if there are American employees who are willing and able to fulfill this position. Certain things that the employer has to do, for example, post 2 advertisings in a Sunday edition's newspaper in the area where the business is located, and registering with work labor force websites of the state where the company is located. There are some other means of testing the market. I'm not going to focus on that, so no, there should be certain steps taken to do it properly. And it's very important to do it properly because if there is an audit from Department of Labor, the employer will have to show that everything was done by the book. This stage takes 2 to 3 months. Once it's over and there is no resume, or if there were resume, the candidates did not qualify for the minimum requirements, then we proceed to the 3rd stage, and that is the PERM. In other words, the labor certification. That's the last paperwork that we get from Department of Labor. After filing all the paperwork and sending it to DOL, we need to wait about 7 to 8 months. If we do the math and calculate the 1st, the 2nd, and the 3rd stage, we come up with the following numbers. Let's say 7 months for the prevailing wage, 3 months for the recruiting, we're already at 10 months, and 8 months for the PERM. We get to a year and a half to satisfy the requirements with Department of Labor. So once we get the PERM, which already has the name of the employee on it, the foreign employee, then we go to stage number 4. And that is when we file the Form I-140 with USCIS, with Immigration Services, to get the foreign employee approved for the immigration visa. That process may take 6 to 8 months, maybe even more. However, there is expedited premium processing for additional $2,500. Employer will be able to get I-140 approved for 15 days. Once that's done, the case goes to the NVC, National Visa Center, and from that the petition goes to the local embassy of the country where you live. Once the interview is scheduled with the embassy, you go there with your family, who's also going to get the green cards, and your family is your spouse and your children under age 21 who are not married. So let's say if you married and you have 2 kids who are not 21, you'll be getting 4 green cards. Once you get your visa, you have to pack up your luggage, and that's the fun stuff, come to the States, and when you'll be crossing the customs, they'll stamp your passport with this nice blue stamp that's going to say Form I-551, and that's your green card. And the actual green card, as a separate document, you'll be getting by mail in a couple of months after you arrive. So this entire process is going to take 2 to 2.5 years. If you have the employer who is willing to wait for you for this amount of time, then you are having a green light from me. If you think that you qualify for this visa, please go down below this video and fill out the questionnaire that I prepare especially for you, and I'll give you a free analysis of your case within 48 hours. Please subscribe to my YouTube, smash that like button, comment, ask me the questions under this video. I'll definitely address those as soon as I can. I am Stanislav Shamayev, the lawyer of the future. Your future begins here. Good luck.